going ahead and put the recording on, so I do want to give you all notice that that is on. And so let's kind of move forward. I want to, yep, please mute yourself as you all are logging in. I'm going to have you mute yourself as you're logging in. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about week 4 in our session, and I want to start right out with some great testimonies of how things are going with your peer appointments. I am getting ready to close this poll. Hopefully everyone has got an opportunity to vote, because we do need to put up one additional poll as it relates to your peer assignment. So please make sure that you get an opportunity to vote. Okay. Make sure that you get an opportunity to vote. Let's go ahead and get our hands raised here and see if you can share. A couple of you can share how your peer assignments are going. Please make sure as you log on, you keep yourself on mute. And so I'd like to grab a hand. Is there anyone? Gennaro? Okay. Looks like Shay Jones Johnson has her hand up.
Hi,
Okay.
good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Keelan is my peer, and I just wanted to report out that it felt like we had a really big turning point during our last peer session. Our previous sessions have been going really well. We've been learning a lot, but during this last session, we really jumped into accountability and what that really means, and we kind of changed things up. We needed to step things up and really truly hold each other accountable for our progress from week to week. And so what we decided to do is, after each peer session, we decided to write session highlights, expectations, action steps, and follow-up items. And we said, okay, during each session, we're going to have that in front of us. And we also agreed to kind of revamp our peer agreement, our coaching agreement, because we keep adding goals. And so this week we added a third goal. So we said, well, we want to go ahead and update those agreements and have those in front of us during each session so we can truly hold each other accountable. So I thought it was really great. And I really thought the audio session was very informative on the best way to communicate accountability. They went over the negative way to do it, the positive way, and so we talked about the best way to communicate to hold each other accountable. So it was really excellent.
Oh, that is fantastic. What a great report. I'm excited to hear that. Thank you
Thank you.
so very much.
Sure.
It looks like we have Gennaro. Hi, Gennaro. How are you?
Hello, doing well. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. And I see you had your hand up, or was that an accident?
Oh, no, that was from earlier before when you asked to see hands.
Okay, great. Well, Happy New Year to you. Did you want to say anything about your peer relationship?
Just that it's going really well, and we're kind of dubious about having two coaches. But Jonathan and Rosa and I been having great conversations. We had an hour-long conversation yesterday. It's really nice to have even a third perspective, or a second perspective, excuse me, on the things that we're sharing and talking about. So I'm enjoying it.
That is wonderful. Congratulations. It looks like Arlene has her hand up. Arlene, I've sent a request to you to unmute yourself. And so hopefully you'll be able to do so. Okay, wonderful. I see that you're unmuted. Arlene, can you please share? Or at least you had your hand up. I want to make sure that you were trying to share.
Yes, good morning. Teresa is my peer partner, and we have really been having great peer meetings, and we're moving a step further, being that we live relatively close to each other. We're going to start meeting on Saturdays, maybe for lunch or coffee, to just make sure that we're really emphasizing on holding each other accountable and making sure that we're getting our homework assignments done and meeting. Our goal is to meet 2 times a week, and we really are pressing forward with accomplishing that. Thank you.
Wow, that's fantastic. Why 2 times a week? I'm just curious. You guys seem to really be engaging in some great coaching experiences.
Yeah, we really are, and uh, yeah, we're meeting 2 times a week because it's going so well, and we're just helping each other so much, not only in our professional life, but in our personal life as well.
Oh, that is fantastic. Thank you so very much
Thank
for
you.
sharing. I am going to close this poll unless there's someone who has not had an opportunity to poll on their homework. We will be able to collect your homework data by you polling. So if you have not had an opportunity, please do so. I will be putting up a second poll momentarily as it relates to your peer assignment, and I'll give you a couple of minutes to make sure that you're able to complete that. So I'm getting ready to close this poll. It's been open for 8 minutes, so I think we've had enough time to get everyone registered. If you're on the call and you are on a device that you cannot see the poll, please email Yolanda and let her know the status of your homework and your peer appointment. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll now. And the next poll that I want to put up is your, let's see. Okay, so you all, actually, we're not going to put that poll up yet. We're just going to go ahead and start so that we can make sure that we get through. Well, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and do it now. Let's do it now to get it out of the way. So I was able to meet with my peer prior to the session. Please quickly fill that out, and then we'll jump into session 4, and we will move expeditiously. If there's anyone on the line who is just now logging in and you did not get an opportunity to document if you have done your homework through the polling system, please feel free to email Yolanda. Let her know that you are on the call and that you've completed both homework, peer assignment, or that you haven't completed homework and peer assignment. And we'll follow up with you and see if you have any questions. Okay? And as we log on to the call this morning, if we can make sure that we mute ourselves, that would be fantastic. All right, so let's just give the poll about another minute or so as people are still logging in, and in about a minute we will shut the poll down. And you guys are doing great with your peer assignments. Wow, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Just about 100%. I am so impressed with this group. Thank you so very much. Well, it looks like everyone's had an opportunity to vote. I'm going to go ahead and close it, but don't fret if you didn't get an opportunity to participate. Please just follow the email instructions and let Yolanda know. I am going to ask, let's see, Jonathan, can you hear me? I just have a question for you.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear
Jonathan,
me?
Jonathan, do you see one screen or two? I'm just curious.
I only see one. I think Shamaya is probably logged in under my name.
Okay, do you see 2 slides or 1? Maybe I should have put it that way.
I still see the poll, so I'm not.
Okay, I didn't end the poll. Thank you. I think that's important. Let's see. Now the poll is closed. Do you now see the slides? I want to make sure that you all can see the slides.
I only see one slide.
Wonderful. That's exactly what I wanted you to see. So thank you so very much, Jonathan, and Happy New Year to you as well.
Same to you. Thank you.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Thank you for sharing about your peer appointments. And I want to welcome Yolanda to the call. She's with us this morning. So Yolanda, welcome. It looks like I'm having a hard time moving this dial here. Our housekeeping. We will have our next webinar, which will be not the 11th, but I think it's the 17th. Is that right? So that date is incorrect. So next week, nope, the 18th. Next week, we will log in on the 18th. I want you to make a note of that. On the 18th, we will log in. However, there is no class the week of January 25th. There's no class the week of January 25th. We will resume on February the 1st. So I just wanted to let you know that that was from the last slide that I gave you all. I made that announcement at the last webinar right before Christmas. I just wanted to reiterate it on this slide as well so that you all know that we will not have class the week of January 25th. Please mark your calendars accordingly, and I'll have Yolanda send out an email reminder, but we will be here next week. All right. Today, our learning objectives, we will talk about experiencing, building authentic relationships and mutual understanding through life stories, experience listening as a way of communicating value and believe in a person, gain the ability to engage employees in teachable moments that can foster transformation, and acquire the skills of using catchphrases to summarize a principle. So I want to start a dialogue with you all about accountability, and I'm going to open the chat box here as well. Okay, great. So I have the chat box open. Let's just kind of talk about what is healthy accountability to you all. When you think about accountability, what do you think about? What do you think about? Raise your hand and I will give you the floor. What do you think about when you think about healthy accountability? Okay, Gennaro, you have the floor, sir.
I think honesty and possession of and ownership of a task or something, no matter the outcome.
Okay, good, love it. Thank you so much. That's great. Anyone else? What do you think about when you think of healthy accountability? Okay, Sean. Yes, Sean Sanders, you have the floor.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. When I think about it, is healthy accountability, and I think this is something that the author said in the audio. Is there's no guilt associated with it. It's not like you're letting someone else down. If you're letting anyone down, you're letting yourself down because it's something that you said you wanted to do. But there shouldn't be any guilt or shame or ridicule if it in health accountability. That's my thought on that.
Oh, I love that, and I think that you are absolutely right. You are 100% on the money. Let's also hear. It looks like someone else had their hand up. Anyone else? No one had their hand up. Anyone else? You are on the money with that. No guilt associated with it. Anyone else? What does healthy accountability mean to you? Sean, I think you may have your hand up again. Did you put your hand up a second time?
No, you didn't unmute me, I think. But no, I didn't have it up again.
Okay, great. Okay, all right, one more person. Healthy accountability. What does it look like to you?
Please press the button that takes the parking ticket.
Anyone else? Let's get one of our ladies on the call to share what does healthy accountability look like to you. How about Viola Reynolds? Miss Reynolds, are you there with us this morning? You're unmuted.
Yes. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Just and in your own definition of healthy accountability, what does it look like to you in the workplace, or you could say it in personal relationship, however you'd like to answer the question.
Well, I like what he said when it's not forced. In other words, I'm not forcing you to do something that you're taking the responsibility yourself, and you're voluntarily saying, yes, I need to do this. I'm holding myself accountable, and it's not somebody else pressuring you to do it, but you accepting that, yes, this is your responsibility, or something that you've done. But in other words, it's voluntary. It's definitely not something that somebody's forcing you to do.
Okay, love it. Great. Absolutely, it's voluntary. I like that. Let's look at the next. Let's look at some of our answers. That healthy accountability is an energy for change. Um, when you're in an accountability relationship with someone, it really is a energy for change. Recently, um, I have 5 children in college, and 4 of them were at the university, and one was at a junior college. And my oldest daughter has taken a little bit longer than we would have liked for her to complete. And so she was in a um, opportunity to graduate last year and missed a class or something another. And so her dad and I told her that it was important for her to be on an accountability plan with us. And so one of the things that we did, we gave her some ultimatums, and we asked her to write out a plan as to what would it take for her to finish this last class in order for her to graduate. And someone has themselves off of mute. Let's see. Okay, great. And so she had to write out a plan. And so the date for the plan was the end of the year. And it was great because we gave her enough time to really think about it and to put some things into action. And she did a wonderful job. She committed herself to action. And on the 31st, she had a plan for me as to how she was going to finish out her education. And so it produced energy for change. It gave her an opportunity to make some decisions in her life that would produce change. It's a true partnership. You want to work in tandem with the person in whom you're accountable to. That's very important. And it definitely is a volunteer relationship. One of the things about accountability, you do need clear expectations. If you're holding someone accountable in a relationship, it is so important that that person understands what you are holding them accountable to. And so this is why in the coaching course, you all have peer relationships. You have peer relationships because if we didn't give you peer relationships, in many cases, it would be very difficult for us to manage the accountability process. So part of the reasons why we do that is to start to foster a culture of accountability in your own life. In addition to that, when you start coaching, coaching is an accountability relationship. It's very important for you to grasp the fact that when you're coaching your employee, you are in somewhat holding them accountable to a process. And so because this training is very experiential, you're going through the process yourself so that you'll know what it feels like when you get a client. And then, of course, specific questions. You want to make sure that when you're in an accountability relationship with someone, that you're asking them specific questions as it relates to the area in which you need to hold them accountable to. So that's really important. So as we talk about accountability, I want to hear from you, some of you on the line. Talk to me a little bit about what some of the audio sessions were like during this, because all of you listened, I'm sure, to the audio sessions. So if you could give me somewhat of, share your own testimony about the audio session on accountability that Dr. Joseph Umidi talked about. What were some of the things that he brought up in that audio session that you listened to? Just raise your hand and we'll give you the floor. Okay, let's go ahead and call on some folks since we can. Miss Hayes, can you hear us? I have unmuted you.
Hello,
Good
can you hear
morning
me?
and happy New Year to
Good
you.
morning. Happy New Year. I'm sorry, could you rephrase that question for me, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Accountability when Dr. Joseph Umidi in the audio. Just wanted to hear what the audio session was like. Some of the things that you heard in the for the accountability piece. Were you able to listen to the audio as of yet?
I don't think I listened to the right session on the
Okay.
audio.
Okay, no problem. Let's and thank you so much. Let's find someone else that raise your hand. There you go, Jonathan. Can you share a little bit about the healthy accountability with Dr. Joseph Umidi?
Sure. One thing I remember him talking about was, I think he outlined 4 different elements, but the one that stuck out to me was that it had to be voluntary on behalf of the client. When he talked about setting different goals and expectations, it needed to be something that the client was realizing that they needed to do something setting, so in order to kind of help keep them accountable.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I love that. Yes, and it looks like Jefferson also wants to jump in. Jefferson, let me unmute you, or maybe you can unmute yourself here. Let's see. You are unmuted, Jefferson. Thank you,
Yep.
Jonathan.
Yeah, so I guess I would just second Jonathan. That was the biggest takeaway I had was I think he said something to the effect of keep the choice with the client. That as the coach, we might could recommend things or bring things up, but the choice is always the client's because it's a voluntary relationship. And I think for me, that seems to be one of the biggest differences between coaching and mentoring is that when you mentor, you get to tell like, hey, this is a really good option. You might want to consider this. But when you coach, it's all voluntary.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when we talk, thank you so much, Jefferson. That was fantastic, and I love the way that you pulled in mentoring in that conversation because you're absolutely right. Um, Marcy, you had your hand up. Yes, welcome to the call. You have the floor. Okay, Marcy, maybe you didn't mean to have your hand up on that one. Let me send you a unmute request and let's see if you can unmute yourself on your end. Looks like you're on a phone line. Okay, there you are, Marcy. Did you want to?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Welcome to the call.
Okay. Yes, I was saying that because I liked how he talked about because the person has to take ownership of it. The person being coach has to take ownership of it. There's no judgment or there's no punishment based on decisions the person decides to make or not make.
Okay, you're absolutely right. I love that. Thank you so much. Excellent dialogue and participation. Let's talk a little bit about the IIEI paradigm. I want you to go into your manuals, and in the back of your manual on page 259 under resources, I want you to grab your IIEI paradigm, and let's spend some time talking about that for just a second, because I want to talk a little bit about this paradigm and how do we engage in powerful conversation that really produces change in the life of an individual that you're coaching. If you have found the document, could you all raise your hand if you have found the document? I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. It's in the back of your manual on page 259. Wonderful. All right. So the IIEI paradigm is a coaching model that really deals with communication. So when you're in an accountability relationship, one of the things that you want to do is to really exercise active listening so you can identify what is at work in the person in this particular situation. Okay, that's what powerful coaches produce. It allows your employee to start thinking about, as you're sharing, what's working inside of me as my coach is speaking. What's happening as my coach is asking me powerful questions. What can I identify about myself or about my work engagement or about whatever issue you're coaching the person on? They're able to identify what's going on because you're asking the right questions. And then and we're going to learn next week, we're going to talk about OPS. We're going to start talking, and you all are going to do some coaching around that. And you'll find that as you explore powerful questions, observing, probing, and sifting with the client, you're going to be able to then interpret what is going on in the life of the client. Okay? And then, so with that, you're going to help the client identify what is this opportunity developing in me, meaning that your client is going to start to uncover and unfold, or your employee in this case is going to be able to unfold what is really happening as a result of this accountability relationship, and how is it moving me closer to my life goal. As you continue to talk to the individual, it's going to open up an opportunity for deep engagement. So again, now you're creating an environment for your employee to be comfortable in conversation with you, because you're moving them down the line in this paradigm. And then the last one, what universal principle can your client learn as a result of the conversation that you all have spoken of? So there's about 4 things that should happen in this accountability relationship. People should be able to identify whatever situation is happening inside of them. So if you're coaching me on an HR issue and I'm habitually late, and for whatever reason I keep coming up with excuses, hopefully in our accountability relationship, I'll be able to identify that there's some areas through self-awareness, because you're having powerful conversation, you're having powerful questioning with me, and now I'm able to identify what's going on inside of me. Hopefully I'll be able to interpret that and interpret that this is an opportunity to develop something inside of me that will shape my character and make me better. Hopefully in our accountability relationship, we're engaging, and I'm learning how to respond to coaching, and I'm learning how to respond to an accountability relationship. And then hopefully I'll walk away with some principle that I can learn, some lifelong lesson. Now, where this IIEI paradigm works best is with sharing your own life story. And when you share your own life story with people, it really opens up an opportunity for people to see how human you are in the relationship. And so this is what a life story produces. Life stories, they produce an opportunity to build deeper authenticity. And as a coach, one of the differences between coaching and mentoring is that the coach believes so much in the transformation of the employee or of the client in whom they're working with, they are willing to put themselves out there. I had some conversations at the training with Gennaro, and I can't help but think about how powerful that conversation was, and how he shared with me his life goal to help servicemen transition out of the military. And the reason that Gennaro wants to do that is because it's part of his life story of taking part in our armed forces. And so can you imagine the power that he will bring as he gets an opportunity to share and coach with that soldier? So I'm going to ask you all, because we're going to listen to a life story or two. I would like to have someone on the call raise their hand and kind of share very quickly, what is a life story like to you? But before we do that, I think Miss Arlene has her hand up, and I want to make sure that we can get her on the floor. Arlene, would you like to share something?
I am so sorry. That was by accident.
Okay. All right. Great. Is there anyone on the call who would like to engage in our conversation of a life story? You would just simply share something powerful that you'd like to share with the group. Gennaro, I don't know if you'd like to share something. It doesn't have to be deep and personal, but you seem to be great with storytelling. Gennaro, is this an area that you'd like to participate in?
Not especially.
Not especially? Okay.
Not in this type of forum. It's a little broad. I'm sorry.
Okay, little broad. Is this, and let me ask you this, is it an uncomfortable format for you to be able to share what is it this openly?
No, it's not that.
Okay.
I can share what I discussed on our peer meeting. Was one of the things that helped.
Sure.
Kind of craft me here. So a couple of years ago, I moved. Actually, hold on. No, a couple of years ago, I got a notification. I got a new job from moving from New York to Atlanta. At the same time, I was to accept the job and make the move. My twin baby daughters were born. We had just gotten married a couple of months earlier. My wife's father-in-law had passed away, so it was, we kind of had a lot of life milestones happen, sort of within a year. And, I kind of look back at that and realize that these types of things that are challenges and issues, and if you could just make it past those, and I'm trying to remember how we had the conversation yesterday, but essentially that you can really do anything you want. You just have to do it, and you have to make it work, and you have to push and hold yourself accountable. And there's basically, I feel like the pressure of having to pack up a house and move the family and go set up the new house and get integrated into a new job, and all these things that occurred at one time just kind of helps continue to craft and mold me to be a more accountable, more effective person.
Gennaro, that is a fantastic story, and let me tell you why. And that's exactly what I was looking for from you. Like I said, you share great stories. By the way, I wasn't asking you to share the story you shared with me in Atlanta. I just wanted you to do exactly what you just done here. The reason that this was such a great story is because if I was one of your employees and I was in the middle of a transition from one agency to another, and I had to cross state lines, your story would help me identify that whatever I'm feeling inside of me, okay, that it's okay to feel the way that I am. And that, again, remember, you've helped me identify what is at work inside of me. So you know what, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed about my move. I've not shared that. It may be hindering my performance just a tad bit. Maybe I'm not ramping up as quickly as possible. But how can I capitalize off of this situation? What can I do for change? How do I interpret this? You just helped me. If you shared a story like that, because now I know that I'm not by myself. I also discern some empathy that, you definitely can kind of empathize from where I am in the situation. And so now I may not feel as rushed to catch on, but I know that, not to suggest that I don't have to catch on quickly, but I definitely feel better about myself. Does that make sense, Gennaro?
Absolutely.
I don't know if you're still with us.
Can you hear me or no?
So that's what I'm sharing.
Hello?
That's what the types of stories. These stories are not deep, personal stories that are, that are really deep and personal. It's just simply life lessons. Simply life lessons that as you're working in an accountability relationship with an employee, that you can say, here, let me share this with you. I think that's what we're looking for. Is there anyone? Thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate that. Is there anyone else? Anyone else? Arlene, you have your hand up again, or is that from last time? Arlene?
I loaded. I'm so sorry. I loaded.
I'm sorry, you did what?
I lowered my hand. I don't want it up. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Is there anyone else that would like to share? We need one more person. I don't want to choose anyone, you all. I want you all to freely participate, but I do need to hear 100% participation. So I may have to call on you if you're not raising your hands. But is there anyone who would like to, in this case, share a quick life story that you think you could use to impact an employee in accountability relationship? Anyone? All right, Stephen, I've just sent an unmute request to you, Stephen Dean. And can you unmute yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much.
Okay, a life story about accountability for me was when I was had a very stressful job with my former employer at IBM, and I was traveling a lot, and I was also attending graduate school full time. But I had to be accountable for my coursework because my employer was gracious enough to pay for my coursework, and I also had to maintain a high standard on my position so that they would continue to pay for my coursework. So I had to really put things in perspective and have a lot of different, understand what my priorities were. The good thing about that, being held accountable, is it really, really helped me with my time management skills, because I knew any amount of free time I had to study. And at the same time, it helped me utilize lunches and things like that to do my schoolwork. So I was really a good time manager during that time. Unfortunately, it also helped me be accountable to I say unfortunately, but I guess it is fortunate in the end. I got ill during that time because I was trying to do too much. So I ended up, doctor's orders, ended up having to take about a month off of work because I was ill. And I had to delay school a little bit, about a month and a half. But it was because I was trying to do too much and stressing myself out, getting that 3 or 4 hours of sleep. And when you continuously do that, it takes a toll on you. So actually, how I'm accountable now, I try to have start and end times to my day. I try to make, enough time for myself so that those types of situations don't happen again. And I'm still working on this, but the less I have to do, the less I manage my time. But I'm trying to manage my time very effectively so that I'm not rushing and doing things at the last minute. So pretty much work-life balance is how I see myself being accountable and holding myself accountable to different activities.
I love that. I love that. That's wonderful. Excellent story. Again, very appropriate for the workplace. And I'm telling you, more people can engage with that story than you think, because most people don't know how to balance their time. And so as you listen to those stories, what do you now appreciate about life stories that you didn't previously? If it's uncomfortable to you to do life stories, share that. Or what do you appreciate about it? And why does sharing about our life story develop authenticity? I want the first question to be answered by a couple of people, and then we'll take a couple of people to answer the second. So let's get some hands going. Thank you so much for your participation, Stephen, in that. Let's see if we can hear from Miss Riley this morning. Miss Riley, are you there with us?
I am.
Hi, can you speak just a little tad bit louder?
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. What do you appreciate after hearing those wonderful stories from Stephen and Gennaro? What can you appreciate that you can now take back and incorporate with your employees as you continue to manage people?
First, I want to say that I think that one of the greatest outcomes of all of this is the authenticity that everyone is openly displaying when they're sharing their stories or sharing their experiences. And I really do value and appreciate that. I think it's just something to be noted. As far as kind of taking things back to employees, one of the things I've been working on with my peer is for myself working on affirmations and making sure that I am taking that really to heart and affirming and kind of engaging differently based on how I communicate using the tools that we're gaining from this coaching experience.
Wow. Thank you so much, Miss Riley, for that. I really appreciate that. Miss Renee Wootson, are you with us? I just sent you an unmute request. Do you have audio? Want to make sure you have audio. I sent you an unmute request.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you beautifully. Happy New
Okay.
Year. Welcome to the call.
Happy New Year.
Yes, tell me your takeaway about these powerful stories and what did you pick up from hearing them today?
It gives me a different perspective of more for me of I don't really open up so quickly.
Okay.
But from the perspective as a coach of, and even some things that you and Yolanda mentioned even when we met in class, as far as the vulnerability and opening up, but not having to reveal yourself too personally.
I agree. I don't think that you have to be very personal, but I think just a little, just a little bit of information on the surface, it can go a long way. Would you agree?
Yes.
Now, of course, the deeper a person's willing to go, the more transformation someone on the other end of that accountability relationship may experience. But that's not a prerequisite. So, and I want to thank you for jumping out there today as I called on you. I got you to have much of a chance, but a choice. But thank you for sharing so candidly. I think that Dana has her hand up. Dana, can you unmute yourself? Let me send you an unmute, an audio pin to unmute. Your audio pin number is 122#. That's Dana, I see that you have your hand up, but I don't hear you in the audio. Okay, there you are. We just had you, Dana. Are you there with us, Dana Moore? Looks like you have your hand up. Okay, wonderful. Welcome and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you kindly. I think it's not so much the storytelling, but I think there's a level of genuineness and honesty, as some others have mentioned. But in including a universal principle, I really like judge not, lest ye be judged. And I think it's important as a coach and as a peer, as anyone, a partner, a wife, a husband, a child, a parent, sometimes we get into these modes of, it needs to be done this way, and you didn't do that, and you failed to do this, and, you're not living up to these particular expectations, and it's just so not in tune with what the person needs at that time, because we're putting ourselves and projecting our expectations and life experiences and perceptions onto other people in a way that it stops the person from being who they are and from progressing and learning or growing or even achieving anything or even being able to be in the relationship. And so I think that it's important that if there's any universal concept that's included in this as a coach, from the coach perspective, not just only from the coachee's perspective, but that is to really step back from the situation. And this is where I think the difference of mentoring and coaching come in, because I personally experienced once with a coach where we were doing really good, and she was helping me understand some things that I wanted to understand about myself. And then one day I got on the phone with her, and she was like, well, what I want to see you do is blah, 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 blah. And I was like, wow, where did that come from? You know, because it wasn't about what I needed anymore. She had moved from the coaching role to a mentoring role, but that's not what I needed from the relationship. So that's my personal short story and my
Dana, I think
accountability. I think someone has unmuted their line. Someone
I just muted
out and out.
Dana, let me share with you, I think that what you said is paramount. And I also want to commend you on, again, inserting the differences between coaching and mentoring. Once the coach starts to share what they want to see, you no longer, you move out of the I paradigm. So the interpretation of the questioning and the conversation and the active listening is no longer given the person to develop the opportunities that's within themselves, or to identify what work is happening within themselves so that they can engage and then develop that universal principle. So I think that you are 100% on it. Excellent. I think we had one or two other hands up of folks who wanted to participate. But now they're, oh, right. Miss Newman, you have the floor. I've unmuted you, but it looks like you may have to unmute yourself when you're in.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So I guess what I wanted to share really was, I think it's kind of already been said, but I think that focusing on being authentic and focusing on sharing of yourself in the coaching relationships are going to be what moves the relationship forward. And it certainly is something that we should consider in all aspects of our lives and not just in a coaching situation, because, you know, moving forward in our professional lives, that is something that leaders really look for and identify well with. Those good leaders, they can easily spot that characteristic, and it, you know, it comes through, and it's very easy to see, and you can, you know, really tell who are those folks who are going to be in leadership and in management and supervisors who can do that well. So it's always a good idea to just practice that in our everyday relationships in order, you know, to better ourselves and move forward in our careers.
Ms. Newman, thank you for that contribution, because I think as a coach, I try to live this every day. Every time I'm able to engage in conversation or communication with people, I'm looking for an opportunity to help develop them in whichever way that they want to be developed. Whether I'm on a speaking platform, whether it's one-on-one, I'm always thinking about the other person in that sense. And I think you're right that people at the end of the day, and particularly in the workplace, want to be developed into high potential leaders. And I think that's a question that as you all move up in management in the federal government, how do you live a life in your work-life balance that you are developing and being intentional about developing high potential leaders, people who will take government platforms to the next level because they've been under your leadership. And so that's going to be a very powerful transformational tool for you as management and as future leaders. One of the things that I'd like you to do is to just kind of write down, I'm not going to ask you these questions, but I'd like to just take a second for you to write down 2 things that has transformed your life in which afterwards you were never the same. And you don't have to share that, but 2 things that has just, I want you to reflect on that for a second, that has transformed your life in such a way that you were never the same. I'm just going to give you a second to think about that information, because as you recall these types of questioning in your own mind, in your own heart, it really starts to develop a platform for how you will share with others. As you become comfortable with talking about your own transformation as a government employee in your career, how you've moved from all of the different grade levels and moved up in your career pathway. What has transformed you? Or maybe it's something in your personal life, something that has transformed your life in which you were never, ever the same. Okay. I want to do some coaching, and Crystal has her hand up, so I want to make sure that we give her the floor. Hold 1 second, Crystal. I want to make sure we unmute you. Yes, you have the floor, Crystal Rutland. Rufflin. I hope I said that correctly. Rutland.
Yes, you can call me Jade. Crystal is the government name. I kind of go by it sometimes, but anyway. I wanted to follow up not on the question you just asked, but a statement you just made about what we are as federal employees moving up, what we want to do. And LaPracia is my peer coach. We have an awesome good time. We don't meet twice a week, but when we do meet, we meet for about 2 hours.
Wow,
both good and bad. But what we've really been able to do is use our things that we're going through professionally and personally to kind of coach each other on. She's been a great resource for me. One thing that we did talk about yesterday is that instead of doing New Year's resolutions, I made a list of about 15 things, short-term goals to accomplish each month. And my sister and I are choosing 1 or 2 goals a month to accomplish. So it's kind of a smaller scale way to handle it. And it takes you throughout the whole year, as opposed to the first 6 weeks going hard on a goal and not achieving it and getting disappointed or whatever. And I told her one thing that I want to add to the list, but I have not yet, but I am by the end of the year, is some type of accountability step to be the employee that I want my employee to be when I'm a manager in a few years.
Wow.
And so I was telling her, and she cautioned me. I shouldn't say that my work ethic is not that good. And my time management is generally good. I want to get to a better point of time maximization. So I want to be able to maximize my time better, so that I work a 10-hour day. And so because it's such a long day, I give myself a lot of leeway on certain projects or certain things. And I was saying that I think I could accomplish a lot more in that 10 hours, even if it's, doing something that might be a slight personal project or something during that time that will help make me better the next day, or help me be able to put my phone down and not check my email when my daughter gets home, so that we can really engage and we can read books and play board games. We did a lot of that over the Christmas break, and I was like, I kind of want to keep doing that, but then when I'm back in the grind, I'm just kind of, checking my work email at 9 o'clock so I know what I have the next day, and giving all of my time to her once I get home and putting work aside. And so I really need to figure out how to maximize that time, how not to have too many excuses, how to set good, reasonable deadlines for myself, so that when I'm working with an employee in 2 years, that I'm able to say, okay, but this is the kind of employee that I am, and so I'm going to hold you to that same level of accountability, but I'm really meeting that standard as well. So it's something that I kind of want to start working on. I'm blessed to have such a very open, laid-back manager. Just as long as you get the work done, she doesn't really care how you get it done, just as long as you do get it done. But I know that might not, especially with the new administration, that might not necessarily always be the supervisor I have, or when I become a supervisor, I may not always have, employees like myself who can work autonomously. So to be able to figure out how to be the employee that I want my employees to be in a few years, I need to start working on that as a standard. So that's it.
Wow. Can I commend you for your own level of self-awareness as it relates to what it's going to take for you to go to the next level to be a high potential employee, or actually a high potential leader. I'd like to know if there's someone on the call that would like to maybe coach you in that time management, or in some area that you'd like to be coached to even prepare. As you said, this is something you're going to do toward the end of the year. You want to put in a goal to start working on being the leader that you want your employees to be when you become a manager. That's a powerful goal. If everyone thought like that in the terms of self-development so that we could be better for others, think about how fantastic our world would be. So would you like to be coached on that? I'd love to see if there's someone that can coach you just for about, maybe we'll put 5 minutes on the clock, and just kind of hear what comes out of that. And hopefully, as they're coaching you, we'll be able to hear some personal stories. So maybe it should be someone who's had tenure and feel like they have something to share. What do you think, Jade? Would you like to be coached? All right, let's see who would like to coach her. Now, Miss Newman, do you have your, let's see, I see Newman here. Do you have your hand up to coach, Karima?
Can you hear me?
I can. Would you like to be the person who would facilitate the coaching?
No. There might be somebody who do a better job at it.
Oh, no, I think that you would do fantastic. This is not, you're not going to be graded on this. This is just you having a conversation with her. You can use open-ended questions and do the best you can. Some of the next week, when we really jump into coaching, you'll see some new principles you can use, but I think you'll do great. Let's just engage in a conversation with her and use as many open-ended questions or door questions, direct, open, give her, as you can. Just see how you do.
Okay.
I'm gonna put a timer up here, okay? And let's see. I'm going to give you all 7 minutes. And then what I would like to do, right now the time is, it's 9:30. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to have a conversation with her. And then after the 10 minutes, we are going to debrief and give other folks on the call an opportunity to share what they heard. I would like those of you participating to jot down what you hear and be prepared to debrief after the coaching session. So let's hit OK here. And on your mark, get set, go.
Hi, Jay.
Hey, Karima, how's it going?
It's going really well. How's your new year going?
It's getting off to a pretty good start. Hitting the ground running, kind of. Well, easing into it. I'm not running. I'm like doing a slow jog.
Well, that's great, Jade. I think I heard you say a couple of things that really sparked some future questions that I hope we can go over today regarding how you want to position yourself in a couple of years for management, as well as prepare yourself personally to be ready to take on that role. Did I hear you correctly?
Yes, what I'm kind of trying to work on is taking goals small bites at a time. And so one thing that I thought about, an idea that I've been spinning, is one goal that I can add, where for 1 month I hold myself accountable to really, maximizing my time and kind of being true to my time, so to speak, for anything. Not necessarily letting a clock run me, but for example, yesterday I was 15 minutes late to work. And, it's one of those, if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? Like, my boss wasn't there by the time I got to work. She doesn't know that I was late. But I want to start being accountable to myself to say, okay, that means I have a 15-minute shorter lunch period. I work 15 minutes out longer, or I take 15 minutes of leave.
Right.
So I really want to set myself to those kind of goals, but that's really hard because in the environment that I'm in, that's not really an expectation, to be quite honest.
Right.
And so because my boss knows I'm gonna make up the 15 minutes, she doesn't care. Nobody knows. But my time, my leave, so to speak, my annual leave that I accrue is very precious to me. So I'm not one to like squander the time. So I was telling my sister, if I know that I'm going to take an extra 30 minutes to run an errand at lunch, and I know that that means that I'm going to have to take leave for it, I'm going to really adjust my time accordingly. And I know that I probably would because I hate to have to take leave.
Okay. Well, I wanted to dial back to something that you led off with, and you led off with the fact that you were 15 minutes late for work, and I did kind of want to go through and figure out what what is your process, or how do you prepare for your day the night before, or what types of tools do you do in order to prepare to make sure that you're able to keep that internal clock? Tell me about that.
It actually wasn't me. I mean, I hate to blame the 4-year-old, but really what happened was our system had gone awry because I normally don't take my daughter to school on the days I have to go into the office. And so essentially something happened at the last minute where I had to take my daughter to school. And so that's what made me 15 minutes late. So uh, it's a rare occasion, because I normally don't take her to school, on the days I go into the office. So
Okay, well that's very helpful. Very helpful. There were a couple of things you said when you were explaining how you might respond to a situation where you may be behind on something, and how you make up the time, and what types of things you do to make sure that you would make up for taking a longer lunch or running an errand or something of that nature. But I guess I was also interested in something you said before we started the coaching session, was about your 10-hour day and time maximization and how you manage that 10-hour day. So just why don't you also give me some more insight on how you manage that 10-hour day, what type of tools you might use throughout the day to make sure that you're getting the things done in that 10-hour period that you'd like to get done for the day.
Well, I'm very good at calendaring. I put pretty much everything on my calendar, even down to I sync my work and my personal calendars, so that when I set meetings and things at work, I know whether or not I have a personal call, or if I need to, make a doctor's appointment or something like that, and the doctor's office doesn't open until 9. So I have notes, the sticky notes I use on my computer. I use calendaring with reminders. It's not so much that I don't accomplish the things I need to do in the day. In fact, I actually have probably, unlike more people, more time than I can handle. But I feel like I squander that extra time, if that makes sense. So there are other things that can always be done, but there are things that aren't necessarily urgent, or they don't have deadlines. But I just feel like, well, if I got those other things done, then that frees me up at some other point to do something else at that time. So that's kind of, but the tools that I use, calendaring, meeting requests, I write everything down that needs to be done. I'm a very list person. I like to check things off on my list, that type of thing.
Well, it does sound like you are already using a good bit of tools, but you did say something that it'd be good to circle back on, and something that we probably want to spend some more time working on is that squandering of the time and figuring out what are those things that are still in the back of your mind, or that may have not been bumped up on that priority list that you could be doing during those time periods to help you prepare to finish things, or perhaps to free your mind so that you can have that time in the evening with your daughter that you also said was a personal goal of yours. So are there any things that aren't high on the priority list that are in the back of your mind or kind of lower on the list that you think you might be able to do during that time that you're squandering? And it also might be helpful to hear what are those things that you may be doing during the time that you think you're squandering your time?
Well, I'll say what Stephen said earlier about sticking to a schedule is something I don't do as well. Like yesterday, I put in leave because I was late to leave work early. And so I put in leave to leave at 4, but then a coworker came in at like 3:55 and talk about her pregnancy, and we were just gabbing and talking, and next thing I know, it was 4:15. So then I was late with the kids pickup and, everything else, like everything else then was 15 minutes late in my personal life. And so those are the things that I think I need to figure out how to manage a little bit better. I have a good grasp on managing the things I need to manage. But then when things come up, unexpected things, those are the ones that I need to figure out how to assess a time. Should I just start it off saying, hey, it's so good to see you. I would love to catch up. I have to leave at 4. So let's, set a coffee date, or let's go to lunch. And then that would have done it. But I don't have that tool. That's where I need to figure out how to be able to stop and do that, as opposed to stopping to engage at that point, knowing that I only had 5 minutes. I mean, I was literally shutting down my computer when she walked in.
Well, Jade, I think I hear you saying that you already have some ideas on how you can do that. And what I'd like to challenge you with, I know we're coming to the end of our coaching session, is maybe perhaps working on coming up with some very careful ways of putting together your words in order to suggest in those situations how you might deal with the individual, such that you're creating your boundary and you're being respectful of your own time, which is very important to you, and also allowing for you and that individual to come back together and have an opportunity to visit or have that meeting that came up at the end of the day. But just being honest with that individual and with yourself about your time and the boundaries that you'd like to create. And when we have another opportunity to talk, let's talk through some of those situations and examples of wording in text you might use to converse with someone in those situations.
That was very helpful, Karima. You really got me to the core. I think that's what it is. It's these interpersonal relationships. It's people that's keeping me from my time goals, and that's why that's the key. I need to figure out how I'm going to work with those interruptions that come up and figure out how to deal with it. Thank you. That was helpful.
You're welcome. Well, those people are important, so we want to make sure those relationships continue. But we want you to be respectful of your own time and create your boundaries. So thank you for the opportunity to have today to talk to you about those things.
Okay, thank you.
Karima, You 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 nailed it. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Wow. Let's debrief with you first and tell me, how did you feel? You only had 10 minutes. Do you see how much you engaged in 10 minutes?
Well, I think it also helped that, I had the backstory to what was going on, and the fact that I've known Jade for years probably gave me a little bit more insight. And I know, her job and where she works and some of the folks that she might be dealing with. So I think that helped me as well. But I really just tried to listen as opposed to think. And I really tried to listen to Jade as she talked. And I realized in, previous coaching sessions when we did it in our training, I realized what my weaknesses were. So I really just tried in this impromptu situation to focus on where I knew my weak areas were and try to compensate for it.
Absolutely, and I hope that you see that as a manager or a supervisor, that you all will be able to have impromptu coaching conversations. This course is not to just develop you into a career coach, and where you're just you're scheduling hours or block of an hour with someone. This course is to help you to also be able to on the fly have conversations that are transformational. And I don't know if you heard, but the IIEI paradigm, she really saw some self-awareness. And at the end, she said, it's people, it's people. She started to hear as you asked questions, she was able to identify what was at work in her in that situation. And then she started to interpret that information. What opportunity is this developing for me to change? And then she started really thinking about her response. So you really coached her through that paradigm without even thinking about it. You did a great job. Jade, what were you thinking? I'm just curious.
Okay, well, I'll be honest. I really was like, okay, we'll do this exercise, whatever. But it really did get to the core of it. I'm really quite shocked because I guess I kind of knew it in the background, but it is kind of really getting to me that my time is when not to say when other people come and take my time, but when other people come up and because I'm a people pleaser, how to deal with that and get my time back. And I think it's really hard because I don't want to be rude. I don't want to seem like I don't care. But it is still my time. So I need to really figure that out. But I also see as a manager, me being able to, if I can figure it out and get there, then I could really help the people in the future. Because I think, especially in my agency, it's all of our problems because we love to talk and gab and be social, and it doesn't really hinder the work from getting done, but it might hinder someone else's time.
Did you see the IIE paradigm working in your own life through this question as we go back, since you know what that is, identify, interpret, engage, and the imprint?
I think so, but even when she was asking me the questions, I was kind of thinking, no, Karima, that's not it. My tools are good, But then I was like, well, wait a minute, because I even though she was asking the questions and I was answering them, it wasn't until we got really to the end that I was like, oh, well, wait a minute. Okay. She ended up getting to it without me really realizing that that's where we were going.
Yeah, and I want to commend Karima because she did that without really going through some of the coaching paradigms that you all are going to learn next week. So I was very proud of her. Before we open the floor up, Karima, I want to give you a little bit of feedback from my debriefing, and then I want to hear from your peers. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, Karima, you are fantastic when it comes to affirmation. One of the things that you're an excellent listener, and I love the way you recap a question. That is a great skill set as a coach. I also love this saying. You say, I said here that I love the fact that she says, I think I hear you saying. That is wonderful because you're not making an assumption. You're not putting her phrases in your own words. You are in wording them for her. You are just simply playing back or replaying for her what she said, and that is an excellent way to engage in powerful conversation. Jay talked a little bit about being 15 minutes late. Jay, I want to compliment you because one of the things that came out of the coaching was, your own personal integrity. Okay, that's an imprint. That's a universal principle that you can learn in this conversation. I'm realizing that I want to set my own personal value system around what being a good employee looks like to me, so I could foster that in the life of my future employees as a supervisor, because I'm going to model that now. Wonderful, wonderful conversation. We got an opportunity to learn about Jade's value system because she said, her boss wasn't there. She says, but this was so powerful as a leader. She says, but I'm setting a goal and an expectation for what I want to model, regardless if she's there or not. And then the coach, you did a great job. You said, how do you prepare for the internal clock? Now, that's a little telling, Karima, little telling there, because you made an assumption there that her internal clock was what caused her to be a little late. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
So,
I guess it may have been me telling more about myself than telling her.
That's okay. But you did such a great job without having all of the tools. Now, this is what I may have said. I may have said, Jay, what was the obstacle, or are there any obstacles that occasionally cause you to be late? See the difference?
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Then you're opening it up for her to take ownership, and you're not trying to pinpoint why she may be late. You're allowing the client, come to find out, there was a change in her daughter's schedule that she couldn't, there was nothing she could do about that. And so that was one. You did excellent OPS, observation, probing, and sifting, around managing the 10-hour day. I thought you asked a great opening question about that day. And as a result of your great questioning, Jade said, I squander my time. Jade went on to engage and respond on what she could do. I could make a list, etc., to do better. I thought that you did a great job affirming her on using the tools. But then you went into some telling, kind of helping her to, what about doing this? You said a couple of things. What I would have probably said, because you talked about squandering. You said, let me circle back around about squandering. And then you kind of talked to her about that. I would have done this. You mentioned squandering, Jade. Is that an area that you'd like to talk about more? Give the coachee the opportunity to determine what it is that they have interpreted that's going on inside of them that's causing the dilemma. You as a coach have to keep those questions open enough, but you're not telling. You gotta ask the right questions without any telling. So now you're giving her an opportunity to define, am I really squandering my time? Or what does squandering look like for you, Jade? It's a wonderful question. But it all came out in the wash, because at the end, she started talking about her leave and how she was preparing to leave, take leave for whatever reason. But then someone came to her desk and stopped her, and then she realized she got the epiphany. She said, you know what? People, it's you people. And so From there, you would have been able to continue to coach her into some action steps that she could have then held herself accountable. And you could have asked, who could hold you accountable for the next month in managing your time in this specific area? You did a fantastic job. I would like, was that helpful for you, Karima?
Yes, thank you so much.
Oh, you did a beautiful job.
Know what areas I need to continue to work on.
And I want you to know I was so proud of you. You did a fantastic job. I'd like to open it up to the floor to debrief and ask what you all heard on the line. Who would like to, please raise your hand. Who do we, now, Stace, Keyshawn Griffin, yes, you have the floor.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I thought it was awesome. It's kind of funny because Karima was saying, well, maybe somebody else will be better, but it just flowed from start to end, and I really like the way that she got a real clear understanding of the situation, like what's the day like? What do you do? What's happening in your day? And so she kind of got all of that background, and as it went forward, and Jade started realizing, well, wait, it's not that, it's this. Then at the end, I didn't even think of this, but it was kind of just closing like, hey, we're coming to the end, but I want to challenge you. And I thought that was a great way to close it.
Yeah, I think without all of the coaching tools that we're going to introduce starting in week 5, she did a fantastic job. I mean, I was impressed. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Thank you for your input. Excellent. Stacey Baldwin, did you have your hand up? Want to make certain that we get you?
Yes, I did.
Wonderful. Welcome to the call.
Thank you. I was just going to say Karima did a really good job. I like how she went back and she kind of got Jade to focus on her time management. Like she was adamant, like she was going to really, get to the core of it. She did a really good job. She did a good job reiterating Jade's points that she was talking about, making sure that she understood everything. And it did. It flowed very well.
It did. It flowed very well. Excellent job. I think you all don't realize that you're better at this than you really think you are. So excellent job. Anyone else? Raise your hand, please, and get a maybe 1 or 2 more quick debriefs before we end our call. And this is a great way to encourage Karima as she hears from her peers the great work that she's done today in coaching. Anyone? To congratulate anyone, any additional folks? What did you hear? Okay, let's see if we can. John, can you share something with us today of what you heard from Jade and her call with Karima? I've unmuted you, John. If you can you hear? Let me send you an unmute request. There you are.
Okay. Yeah, I was very impressed too, and I felt like there was a lot of openness and honesty there, and she was very engaged as an active listener. And I really don't know what to say other than what you've already said, and I kind of jotted down the same things that you had talked about already, and that is she paraphrased, and she asked the question, if I'm hearing you right. And so that affirmed for the both of them that they're hearing each other and they were listening to each other. And so that what that did was that brought clarity. And the questions that she brought forth, I thought they were good. And it just, I think it was a really good session.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. Well, as we close today, we have about 3 minutes left. I want to just remind you of the power of catchphrases, because as you're coaching, sometimes you can convey a thought in your mind that you're trying to share with your client. It's a way of telling without telling. So a catchphrase is a great way to facilitate that. I'm sure that you all have grown up with catchphrases. And I'm going to ask you all to I'd like to hear a couple, if you have some catchphrases that over time that your mom or your dad or a grandparent or someone said in your life, that they use these phrases to convey a truth without sharing the actual truth that they wanted to convey, but they put it in the term of a catchphrase. Can we get some participation really quickly before our time ends, and maybe we could share some of these catchphrases? Don't never let your well run dry. That would be an example of a catchphrase. And if you were going to coach someone, you may say, when you hear this phrase, don't never let your well run dry, what do you think about that? What comes to mind when you hear me say that phrase? What are some of the phrases that you all can think about really quickly, some fun catchphrases that we can end our day with in our last couple of minutes? I know you all have some great ones. Jefferson, I see your hand up. Please share with us.
The one that I've used actually a little bit with other people around my office is hope is not a strategy, and that's not to downplay hope, but that's really to try to spur people into action, to say, you can hope that things happen, but nothing will change unless you take action towards making that happen. Okay, wonderful, excellent. Anyone else? I love that. John Smith.
Yes. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been engaged with a lot of folks who have been going through situations where the situations were very toxic. And what I've shared with folks is always put your best foot forward. Just because someone else wants to go out on a limb and do wrong don't mean you have to do wrong. You put your best foot forward, and that will carry you a long way.
I love that. Thank you so very much. That is powerful. Rosa Cantrell, you have your hand up. I want to make sure that we can get you in there. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
The one about the grass may not be as green on the other side as you think. The grass may look greener on the other side, but check out what you're doing on this side before you think that the grass is greener on the other side.
Oh,
that's
wonderful.
Always given.
I have heard that a lot of times. I tell you, the grass is not always greener. You need to check what side of the fence you're on. That's right. I love that. That's a oldie but goodie. Is there one last one before we end our call? One last one that you all have that before we end our call? You all did pretty good with that. One last person that would have a catchphrase. No one has a good catchphrase from Grandma. Grandma's given, or someone in our family with lots of wisdom. All right, thank you, Keyshawn Griffin, and this will end the call with this one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't really have one from Grandma, but I do, from an HR background, we have managers that would always come and they would talk about, employees that did something. And when you ask them, when did it happen, it could be years ago. And so I always say, and I got this from a case, justice delayed is justice denied. You can't go back and fix something that you didn't fix when you should have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I love that. Well, listen, you all have done quite a job today. Thank you for working so hard. Looks like Wayne. Wayne, I don't want to leave you out. What's yours really quickly? He had his hand up. I didn't want to leave his great catchphrase out. Wade, if you can unmute yourself, I'll give you a second to rattle that off.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we surely can.
Okay, something my grandmother always said, the best of business in the mind of business is to mind your own business. If you have no business, then make it your business to leave other people's business alone.
I love it. I love it. For some reason, I knew that you'd give us a great one. Thank you so much. Well, listen, you all, thank you for your participation. Be prepared. Next week, we will be going through week 5. Please make sure that if you have not got an opportunity to be polled on your homework and your peer assignments, that you communicate with Yolanda that I was on the call. Yes, I've done my homework and I've met with my peer. If you have any questions during the week, please feel free to reach out to me. But with that said, my time is up. I thank you for yours, and I'll see you at the top. You all have a fantastic week. Until next Wednesday.